Hey everyone. So today I'm just going to really spell it out exactly how and why Armored Core 6 really failed as a game. This game it is a quick cash grab. It was never intended to be a quality game. It is not a faulty game by accident. It is a faulty game by design. And I'm just going to spell out exactly how and why because it's not really a disputable thing if you look at the details. So if we look at the campaign, first off, I mean, we got graphics that are like Xbox 360 graphics. Like, okay. I mean, I kind of expected bad graphics. I projected mid graphics in my earlier video. I was still disappointed, but, I would have forgiven that. I'm not really a graphics hog. The campaign was choppy. You can find that in other reviews as well. Uh, like, it was not correctly balanced. You have missions that are so staggeringly easy, you wonder why they were put in the game, paired with bosses that are the difficulty is so escalated that you wonder why they put them in the game. And we're going to go over each of these here. Now, the reason for this is that when you make a game, you make the campaign, you play the missions out a bunch of times, and then you remake the missions. You have to do this like any company that makes game, they do this at least a couple of times for every mission before they hit that sweet spot where it's challenging but not too challenging. And that's something this game feels more like it's in an alpha version where this is basically the first release. The entire campaign is the first release, and they did not allocate any time for additional alterations for what was not working correctly, what was broken, what's not broken. If we look into realistically, I played the game for 46 hours was my playthrough. They estimated the playthrough time at 50 to 60 hours. I played through it in 46, so I beat their estimated play time by a little bit. And I spent, I would say confidently, less than 10 of those hours actually playing campaign missions, which I thought was going to be the majority of the time. And the remainder of the time was spent against several particularly difficult bosses being very time consuming, some of them taking like 8 hours to beat. And I was like, this is insane. I had expected epic Souls style bosses that were going to change the game. And what they did, they were like, we're just going to make a boss that's bigger, stronger, and faster than you. That doesn't have definitive weaknesses. And we're going to make it so that these bosses can only be damaged in very narrow windows. So you are very restricted on what builds you can use. You have to have a max DPS build for almost every single boss in the game. You cannot make a balanced build, a light weaponry, highly mobile build. You're just, unless you are like literally like in the top percent of all gamers, it will be impossible for you to beat most of our bosses with that build. You need to have, and you look up online guides. There's like, oh, double shotguns, double grenade launchers, or double chain guns, double grenade launchers, to use your hands to wear down the boss and then do crippling damage during the like 3 seconds where it's actually able to take any realistic damage, and then you go back to wearing it down to do this stagger mechanic, which was supposed to make the boss fights have more flavorful, but it made the entirely centered around this mechanic to the point that it's broken. And this is what you see in an alpha version game: is a new mechanic is tested, it doesn't quite work out, they tweak it, and then they bring it back in or maybe replace it until there's a balanced and fun game. In addition to that, more than half of all these bosses were heavily gimmicky. Not like, oh, I'm having a good fight against a challenging opponent, but like, oh, I'm doing platforming. I'm fighting a helicopter that can only be damaged with swords. That's the tutorial boss. Giant worm that You go in circles for about a minute waiting for it to do a specific attack animation that leaves it vulnerable. Then you fire this weapon once that you were required to equip for this mission. Then you wait for a cannon from out of the mission area to fire to weaken it. Then you can do damage to it for about 5 seconds. You're going to be using your double grenade launchers for that. Then you repeat the process 4 or 5 times, and if you can do that without taking too much damage, then you beat the boss. That's not fun. That's heavy gimmicky, and that is what you're going to find again and again and again. With only a handful of bosses that are actually rewarding and rich and fulfilling to fight. And I thought at first, man, I must suck. Like, I thought I was a good gamer. But I'm spending 8 hours dying every 2 minutes. I must be just doing something wrong. I keep rechecking my build. I quit the mission. I respec, sell my parts, buy new parts, go back through the mission, and then die again for like another hour straight. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And yes, I could have looked up online guides and found ways to do it. The one build that actually beats the boss somewhat reliably, like 1 time out of 10. But again, that's not fun. And when I play games to test them out, I play them blind because I want to see what it's like for an average gamer to actually play it. And then I looked at my playtime and I was like, wait a minute. I beat their estimated campaign playtime. This game was designed to take longer than I took. So what that means is they made the bosses intentionally that difficult. Not because they thought it would be fun, but just so they could look in the camera and they could tell you, hey, we made a 50 to 60 hour campaign. When in fact they had made maybe 10 hours of campaign, roughly done alpha version, and they wanted to sell it as this 60-hour campaign, this masterpiece. And just so they could say that lie to the camera in the pre-release video, that's why they ramped up that difficulty, so it would be that difficult to get through the game in that period of time. And that is dishonest. It is shameful. It's disrespectful to gamers who see that, they believe the message, they buy the game, and then find out that it's actually just like 5 really frustrating boss fights jammed into an otherwise small and patchy game. There's very little rewarding content. The new mechanics they bring in are not balanced. They removed the radar screen so you can't see where your opponent is and replaced it with a compass, which is less reliable, while adding in bosses that will be very highly mobile and randomly appearing either next to you or behind you, that will fire weapon attacks that will do like 2/3 of your health and will hit within maybe a quarter second of the attack animation beginning, so that you have to be seeing your opponent to dodge it. But because your opponent does these very fast dash movements that's basically teleporting, you have to turn your camera toward where you think they might be. And you turn your camera to the right. Oh, there they are. I get to dodge the attack. I do a counterattack. Maybe I do a little bit of damage. Okay, oh, they do it again. I'm going to try turning to the left. Oh, it turns out they were directly above me. I just automatically took an amount of damage that now it is no longer possible for me to win this boss fight. Guess I better reload, start it over. And this can happen again and again and again until the RNG pays off and you randomly turn in the right direction the right number of times to where you manage to dodge the attacks and get your counters in with the build that you were required to make for the fight that's not the one you want to play with. Man, it just got me worked up. Then we can go look at the multiplayer, and this showcases more clearly and more than anything I've said so far about how rushed this game is and how little they cared about making it a quality game. If you look at the multiplayer, there is no quick match option. They said no quick match. We're not gonna make it. We're not gonna dedicate server space to it. We're gonna do a lobby system. So if you want to play against one player, you have to make a lobby, wait for another player to join, and then you can only play against that player until you leave the lobby. you can make a lobby for a larger group of players and then cycle out who's playing. You might have to wait like half an hour for it to be your turn, but you'll eventually get to play against different players. However, when the host leaves because they get bored or they have to go to work, instead of transferring the host to the next player so that we can keep having fun, it just closes the lobby and boots all of the players. So you can join a lobby with like 8 players. You wait like half an hour for the through their duels so that you can finally get your turn to play. And then right when you're about to play, the host has to go to work and you get booted. That is like, I have seen better matchmaking systems on like B rank games in the 90s. And that just shows what budget they allocated for this game. For the multiplayer, the guy whose job to make the lobby, they're like, what, don't we got like an unpaid intern? Tell him to do it. And tell him to do it fast, because we need him to do some other stuff too. Like, this is not, it's not professional. It's not even close to the bottom standard for the gaming industry 10 years ago. And the fact that they would try to sell this as a complete game, I feel I got robbed not only of $60, which $69, it doesn't matter. I don't even care about the money. I want my 46 hours back that I could have spent having fun. It's my downtime. It's my time that I'm not at work. I was expecting to have fun, and all I got was disappointment. Please do not buy this game. Please save yourself the time. They are not going to patch it. They are not going to make it better. They made this way on purpose so they could dedicate their programming team that makes one game at a time to starting Elden Ring 2 as fast as possible. Any content creator who is saying that this is a must-buy, that this game is a masterpiece, that this game is great, they know that if they get buddy-buddy with Fromsoft now, they will be allowed early access, or at least have a higher chance of getting early access to Elden Ring 2, where they can make content they know will sell later. They are not being honest. Do not listen to them. Do not buy this game. Do not play this game. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And if I could save even one person from making the mistake I did, that would be worth making this video to me.